Hello, and welcome to English Without Limit. I'm Julia, and I'm so glad you're here today. In this episode, we'll explore the many different ways people around the world learn and practice English in their daily lives. Through stories, examples, and small reflections, we'll walk together on a journey of language learning that feels natural, practical, and connected to real life. When we think about learning a new language, many of us imagine classrooms, textbooks, and long hours of study. But in reality, the most powerful learning often happens in small, everyday moments. That's where confidence is built and fluency begins to grow. Today, I'll share stories of my students, friends, and family members, each finding their own creative way to bring English into ordinary life. And as we go, I'll invite you to reflect on how you might use these approaches too. Let's begin with something simple yet powerful: daily repetition. One of my students, Alice, discovered the power of repeating short, common sentences many times throughout her day. She would say things like, "I am going to school," or "I need water." At first, it felt a little repetitive, but soon she realized that her memory was getting stronger. Her sentences flowed more easily, her confidence grew, and she felt more comfortable speaking in real conversations. Repetition in this way is like building muscle memory for the brain. It makes language automatic. Another learner, Nathan, practiced through short daily dialogues with his family. At breakfast, he would ask, "What are you doing today?" And his family would respond in English. The conversations were simple, but that's exactly what made them effective. These tiny daily exchanges strengthened his sentence formation and helped him feel more natural when speaking. Now let's move into the home, because chores and household routines can also become opportunities for practice. My friend Alice found this especially useful. As she cleaned, cooked, and organized, she narrated her actions aloud in English. She would say things like, "I am washing the dishes," or "I am vacuuming the floor." These little phrases connected her actions to the language, reinforcing memory in a way that felt natural. Every household task became a mini English lesson without needing a classroom. A similar approach worked well for Simon, another friend of mine. He began by describing his morning routine in English. "I am making tea," or "I am packing my bag." Over time, he added more details like, "I am checking my schedule while packing my bag." Bit by bit, his descriptions grew longer and more detailed, until speaking about daily routines in English became effortless. And speaking of routines, some learners like to bring English into moments of travel or local movement. Alice, for example, practiced with taxi drivers, shopkeepers, and pedestrians while traveling to nearby towns. She asked for directions, inquired about prices, and made small talk. These little real-world conversations gave her exposure to natural speech and helped her gain confidence quickly. Now, another practical method is labeling objects around the house. My friend Sophia placed English words on items in her kitchen, bedroom, and living room. Each time she saw an object, she would say its name aloud. Over time, This visual and spoken connection made vocabulary easier to recall. Similarly, my friend Hannah did the same in her bedroom, kitchen, and office, reinforcing vocabulary daily by simply living her life surrounded by English words. Let's also not forget the power of pets in practice. One of my students, Rachel, spoke to her cat in English. She described its actions, saying things like, "You are sleeping," or "The ball is under the table." Even though her cat, of course, didn't respond, the habit gave Rachel consistent practice in forming sentences. It built her confidence little by little, in a way that felt playful and stress-free. Another fun story comes from Michael. He decided to use English while cooking. As he prepared meals, he narrated what he was doing. "I am chopping vegetables," or "I am boiling water." At first, his sentences were short, but with time, he began to describe his cooking process in longer and more detailed sentences. Daily practice, woven into ordinary routines, helped him improve without even realizing he was studying. And then there's Rachel again, but this time in a slightly different context, using English to give instructions at home. She would say, "Please pass the salt," or "Turn off the light." These small but functional commands helped her practice practical vocabulary and gave her family a chance to join in the process too. As we pause here for a moment, notice the theme. Ordinary activities become extraordinary tools for learning when we approach them with creativity. Whether it's repeating a simple phrase, narrating chores, or speaking to a pet, each small step builds memory, confidence, and fluency. And the beauty is, none of these learners set aside special hours or waited for perfect conditions. They used the life they already had, their routines, their homes, their families, as the foundation for growth. Welcome back to English Without Limit. I'm Julia, and in this part of our journey, let's explore how learners connect English practice to their studies, work, and structured habits. When we think of learning environments, we often imagine classrooms or quiet study spaces. But some of the most effective practices happen when learners weave English into the activities they already do. Whether it's homework, work tasks, or personal study routines. Take my cousin Samuel, for example. He met a friend weekly to talk in English about books, school, or hobbies. These peer discussions weren't formal lessons, but they encouraged natural speech, active listening, and vocabulary expansion. Having a partner to share ideas with made the process engaging, and over time it became a habit that shaped his fluency. Another student of mine, Nathan, also found value in conversation. At family breakfasts, he practiced small dialogues. He would ask, "What are you doing today?" And his family responded in English. This simple practice trained his mind to form sentences quickly and naturally. It was a reminder that short, consistent exchanges can add up to long-term fluency. Some learners also rely on writing as a tool for practice. My friend Henry, for example, kept a learning notebook. Every day, he wrote down new words, short sentences, and even small observations in English. Over time, his notebook became both a record of progress and a tool for reflection. Reviewing his notes helped him identify mistakes, reinforce memory, and track how far he had come. Another example is Ethan, my cousin, who created a daily writing routine. Every morning, he wrote 5 new sentences in English and practiced speaking them aloud throughout the day. At the end of the week, he had 35 fresh sentences ready for real conversations. And by the end of the month, he had built 150 useful expressions, phrases he could use confidently in daily life. Small, realistic goals like this keep motivation alive and make progress easy to see. Clara, one of my students, used English in practical planning. She organized a family gathering entirely in English. She wrote invitations, discussed food, explained games, and even coordinated schedules, all in English. Later, she did the same when planning a birthday party. These everyday planning tasks gave her practice in functional vocabulary, sentence formation, and real communication. It showed her that English isn't only for study, it's for life. Others found ways to practice while summarizing what they learned. Samuel, for example, listened to English podcasts and then explained the main points to his wife. This simple act of summarizing forced him to recall details, form complete sentences, and express ideas clearly. It strengthened his comprehension, vocabulary, and speaking skills all at once. Alice, another dedicated student, practiced through active listening. She would listen carefully to short English conversations and repeat sentences aloud. This type of focused listening improved her comprehension, pronunciation, and sense of rhythm in speech. For her, listening was never passive. It was always active and intentional. Similarly, Benjamin, one of my students, listened to short English dialogues during his lunch breaks. He would pause, repeat sentences aloud, and imitate pronunciation. Over time, this repetition trained his memory, improved fluency, and built confidence in his speaking. Now let's step into the workplace. Practical interaction is one of the fastest ways to grow. Andrew, one of my students, began using English at his father's store. He asked customers questions like, "Do you need assistance?" or "What size do you want?" At first, he hesitated, but with every interaction, his vocabulary grew and his confidence blossomed. Real-life communication forced him to adapt quickly and naturally. Oliver had a similar story. He practiced English while helping customers at his uncle's shop. He asked things like, "Would you like this in another size?" Or, "Do you need a bag?" These questions weren't complicated, but they made his English more useful and more connected to real life. And then there's Thomas, who joined an online forum about technology. Every day he asked questions, shared tips, and replied to posts, all in English. Over time, this regular online interaction improved his writing, vocabulary, and understanding of natural expressions. Thomas's example reminds us that in today's world, work and study don't have to be limited to physical spaces. The internet is filled with communities where learning can flourish. Ethan, too, used technology to his advantage. He interacted daily with an English voice assistant, asking questions, setting reminders, and even checking the weather in English. For him, technology became a low-pressure practice partner, always ready for a conversation. And finally, recording oneself is another powerful strategy. Emma, my friend, told short stories about her day, recorded them, and then listened back. She identified pronunciation mistakes, corrected them, and recorded again. Clara did the same, narrating her daily activities and playing them back. Over time, both of them improved their fluency, clarity, and confidence. It was like creating a mirror for their own progress. As we pause here, notice a pattern. Study and work practices become powerful when they are consistent and meaningful. Writing daily sentences, summarizing a podcast, using English in a shop, or even talking to a voice assistant, each one is a real practice with real impact. When English is tied to goals, whether small or large, progress feels natural. It isn't just about memorizing words or filling notebooks. It's about connecting the language to our work, our routines, and our ambitions. Welcome back, friends. I'm Julia, and in this part of English Without Limit, we'll dive into the role of family, friends, and social interactions in learning English. Language is deeply social. It grows best when it is shared. And many learners discover that their strongest progress happens not alone, but in the company of others. Through conversations, group activities, and even playful exchanges. Let's start with teaching. My friend Alice, for example, helped her nephew learn simple English words and sentences. She explained meanings, gave examples, and practiced with him. This not only supported her nephew, but also reinforced her own skills. Every time she taught a new phrase, she was polishing her own pronunciation, strengthening grammar, and expanding vocabulary. Teaching others is a powerful way to learn ourselves. Rachel, another friend of mine, did something similar with her younger cousin. She taught her simple sentences, corrected errors, and provided examples. For Rachel, explaining was a double practice. Her cousin learned, and she herself deepened her mastery. Then there's the magic of storytelling. My cousin Rachel loved sharing stories with her husband. She talked about her school day, family events, or weekend activities. His questions encouraged her to form full sentences, which sharpened her grammar, expanded her vocabulary, and boosted her confidence. Storytelling is a natural way to make language flow. Another cousin, Olivia, also used storytelling as practice. She described past events, daily activities, school memories, family gatherings, all in English. Speaking about the past gave her command of tenses and fluency in forming longer sentences. Family meals and gatherings also create small but powerful opportunities. Nathan, my student, practiced asking questions like, "What are you doing today?" during breakfast. Later, he tried different questions such as, "What will you eat today?" or "Where will you go?" These short dialogues helped him build conversational fluency step by step, Group conversations play a similar role. My cousin Samuel often met with a friend to discuss books, hobbies, or school topics in English. These sessions were informal but effective. They encouraged natural speech, sharpened listening, and allowed vocabulary to expand through genuine exchange. Henry, a friend of mine, also discovered the value of groups. He joined a community club where people spoke in English about hobbies, family, and work. Active participation gave him practice in listening, responding, and building confidence. Sharing ideas in a group made English feel alive and practical. Family and friends also turned learning into play. Julia, a friend of mine, and her schoolmate Mark joined a painting class together. They described their work, exchanged ideas, and discussed techniques in English. Even when mistakes happened, they kept the conversation going. The fun of painting made learning feel natural, meaningful, and lasting. Emily and her school friend Lucas found their own playful path. They solved puzzles together, speaking only in English. They explained their answers, asked each other questions, and even corrected one another. This interactive approach kept the energy high and helped them think quickly in English. Sometimes the learning happens in the most ordinary moments. Michael, a friend of mine, decided to practice English while preparing meals. At first, he said short sentences like, "I am chopping vegetables," or "I am boiling water." Later, he grew more descriptive, explaining full cooking steps. Without even noticing, he turned his kitchen into a classroom and improved steadily without pressure. Another friend, Simon, spoke in English during his morning routine. He would say, "I am making tea," or "I am packing my bag." Over time, he added details. "I am checking my schedule while packing my bag." These everyday moments became steady language practice that trained his brain to think directly in English. Social media also becomes a social teacher. My friend Daniel posted short updates in English and commented on friends' posts. Writing about his day and interacting online sharpened his grammar, sentence structure, and vocabulary while connecting him with others. And then there's online communities. My cousin Henry joined a photography forum, while Thomas joined one about technology and later fitness. They both asked questions, gave advice, and responded to others every day. This kind of participation provided real interaction, real language, and real growth. Group exercises don't always need to be formal. Daniel and his wife created their own short dialogues and acted them out at home. By practicing everyday situations creatively, they made vocabulary and pronunciation fun. It wasn't about perfection, it was about consistency. Clara, one of my students, also experienced this with family. She planned a picnic entirely in English. She wrote invitations, talked about food, and explained games. Later, she did the same while organizing a family party. The process turned family life into a natural language learning playground. Through all of these examples, we see a simple truth. Family and friends give us both a reason and a rhythm for speaking English. Whether through teaching, storytelling, puzzles, art, or group clubs, every shared moment becomes a bridge to stronger fluency. And when learning feels connected to people, it feels alive. It becomes less of a task and more of a joyful, shared journey. Welcome back, my friends. I'm Julia, and in this part of English Without Limit, we'll explore the connection between language, emotions, and self-expression. Language is not only about describing the outside world, it's also about giving voice to what we feel inside. When learners practice expressing emotions and inner thoughts in English, they often find their sentences grow richer. Their vocabulary expands, and their confidence deepens. Take Clara, for example. She made it a habit to narrate her feelings about work, family, and daily life in English. She would say how she felt after a busy day, or how a family moment made her happy or frustrated. This practice gave her words for emotions, helped her form sentences naturally, and expanded her vocabulary. Expressing feelings is a beautiful way to strengthen sentence structure. The same was true for my student Alice. Alongside her other practices, she listened to short English conversations and repeated them. She focused on rhythm, intonation, and pronunciation. Through active listening, she didn't just learn words. She learned how to carry emotion through her voice, how to make her English sound alive. Benjamin, another student, worked on listening and repeating as well. During his lunch breaks, he listened to dialogues, paused, and repeated them aloud. Over time, this exercise built not only memory and fluency, but also confidence in speaking out loud in real situations. Thomas had a similar approach in the evenings. He listened to short dialogues and paused to imitate pronunciation. The repetition trained his speaking muscles and made him more confident. Sometimes learners think of language as only mental, but speaking is also physical. Repetition strengthens not just memory, but the very muscles of speech. Emotions also come alive in storytelling. Rachel, my cousin, often told her husband about her workday or family experiences. His curious questions encouraged her to go deeper, to give more details, and to use a wider range of vocabulary. Storytelling, especially when it carries feelings, makes English personal and memorable. Confidence can also grow through role-playing. Thomas, the same friend who practiced dialogues, acted out real-life scenarios with his wife, doctor visits, shopping trips, or greetings. By rehearsing situations with emotion and realism, he felt prepared when those moments happened in real life. Role-playing gave him both fluency and readiness. Rachel, one of my students, even practiced with her cat. She described its actions with phrases like, "You are sleeping," or "The ball is under the table." At first, it may seem simple, even playful, but this kind of daily practice strengthens sentence formation, builds fluency, and reduces hesitation. Even pets can be silent partners in building confidence. Clara once again showed us how powerful self-expression can be. She narrated her emotions about work, family, and everyday activities regularly. By putting feelings into English, she made the language truly hers. She wasn't just learning words. She was learning how to live her emotions in another language. Confidence is also tied to thinking directly in English. My friend Peter stopped translating from his native language and instead formed sentences directly in English. He described what he saw, what he felt, and what he planned. This reduced hesitation and allowed him to speak with greater ease. Thinking in English turned emotional reactions into quick, natural sentences. And then there's the joy of creative exercises. Daniel, for example, wrote little dialogues with his wife and acted them out. They didn't just read the words, they added tone, humor, and emotion. This made practice engaging, memorable, and alive. Another way learners connect emotion with practice is through summarizing. Samuel often listened to podcasts in English and then explained the main points to his wife. Summarizing requires you to choose what matters, to give it structure, and often to say it with emphasis. It's both intellectual and emotional, because you're deciding what feels important enough to share. All of these practices show us something simple yet powerful. When English is used to express feelings, confidence naturally follows. Emotions give life to words. They create deeper connections between memory and meaning. And the more personal the language feels, the stronger it stays. So whether you are telling a story to a loved one, repeating a sentence with rhythm, describing how you feel, or role-playing a real moment, remember that language and emotion belong together. Expressing yourself in English is not just about words. It's about giving your heart a new voice. Welcome back, friends. I'm Julia, and in this part of English Without Limit, we'll explore how the environment, travel, and creative methods can transform everyday spaces into opportunities for learning English. Language does not live only in books. It lives in streets, in homes, in gardens, and in the ways we interact with our environment. When we bring English into these spaces, learning becomes natural, practical, and alive. Let's begin with ordinary surroundings. My friend Sophia labeled items in her kitchen, bedroom, and living room with English names. Whenever she saw the objects, she said the words aloud. This simple act built a strong visual connection between words and things, making vocabulary easier to recall. Rachel, another friend, took it further at home. She gave directions in English like, "Please pass the salt," or "Turn off the light." These everyday functional commands built her vocabulary and gave her confidence in speaking. Similarly, Nathan practiced short dialogues with his family during meals, asking questions like, "What are you doing today?" These small but regular interactions built fluency naturally. Chores also became lessons. Alice, for example, narrated her household tasks in English. She would say, "I am washing the dishes," or "I am vacuuming the floor." Linking actions with words reinforced memory and gave rhythm to her learning. Michael did something similar while cooking, describing steps like chopping vegetables or boiling water. Over time, his sentences grew longer and more descriptive. Pets can be companions in practice, too. Rachel spoke to her cat, saying things like, "You are sleeping," or "The ball is under the table." Even playful practice like this strengthened her sentence formation and confidence. Travel also offers powerful learning moments. My student Alice practiced English while speaking with taxi drivers, shopkeepers, and neighbors in nearby towns. Asking for directions, prices, and schedules gave her real-life exposure to natural English. Olivia, my cousin, did the same in her city. She spoke with pedestrians and shopkeepers, asking everyday questions. These public interactions built her confidence, sharpened her listening, and gave her real conversational skills. Oliver, another student, helped customers at his uncle's store in English. He asked questions like, "Would you like this in another size?" Or, "Do you need a bag?" Real interaction with customers improved his vocabulary, sentence structure, and fluency faster than memorization ever could. Andrew also had this experience in his father's shop. He asked customers, "Do you need assistance?" or "What size do you want?" The daily practice pushed him to adapt, think quickly, and communicate clearly. Even planning real events can turn into practice. Clara, one of my students, organized a family gathering entirely in English. She wrote invitations, discussed food, and scheduled activities. Later, she planned a picnic and even a birthday party in the same way. Each event gave her practical fluency that no textbook could replace. Technology also plays a role. Ethan, my friend, used an English voice assistant every day. He asked about the weather, set reminders, and posed simple questions. This daily, low-pressure interaction gave him consistent speaking and listening practice. Daniel also used technology creatively. He followed tutorials in English for cooking, gardening, and painting. He repeated instructions aloud, asked questions, and actively engaged with content. This active style of learning reinforced memory and comprehension. For learners who enjoy online communities, progress often accelerates. Henry joined a photography forum where he asked questions and replied in English. Thomas joined a forum about technology, and later one about fitness. These spaces gave them real interactions, exposure to natural expressions, and consistent writing practice. Creative exercises also enrich learning. Victoria, for example, made flashcards with words on one side and pictures on the other. Reviewing them daily reinforced memory and made vocabulary stick. Daniel and his wife wrote short dialogues and acted them out, adding humor and expression. These performances made language playful and engaging. Summarizing is another powerful tool. Samuel listened to podcasts in English and then explained the main points to his wife. By summarizing, he practiced comprehension, vocabulary, and speaking all at once. Active summarizing is always more effective than passive listening. And then there's thinking directly in English. Peter practiced forming sentences about what he saw, what he did, and what he planned without translating from his native language. This reduced hesitation and made his speech flow naturally. All these examples show us something important. The environment can be your classroom. Whether it's your kitchen, a store, a taxi ride, an online forum, or even a pet at home. Every space can hold opportunities for practice. And when combined with creative methods like flashcards, role-play, and summarizing, the process becomes both effective and enjoyable. So wherever you are, look around. Every place, every object, every interaction is a chance to let English live and grow. Welcome back, my friends. I'm Julia, and in this part of English Without Limit, we'll explore how study habits, daily routines, and reading practices shape strong and confident English learners. If there's one truth about language, it's this: small, steady habits make big changes. When we practice a little every day, the progress becomes visible and long-lasting. Let's start with repetition, one of the most powerful tools in language learning. My student Alice often repeated sentences like, "I am going to school," or "I need water," throughout the day. By repeating these everyday phrases, she strengthened her memory, built sentence structure, and spoke more fluently. Nathan, another student, practiced small daily dialogues with his family at breakfast. He asked questions like, "What are you doing today?" and gave short answers. These mini conversations built natural fluency, made speaking less intimidating, and reinforced correct sentence patterns. Alice also worked on listening repetition. She listened carefully to English conversations, repeated sentences aloud, and focused on rhythm and pronunciation. This active style of listening trained her ear, improved her speech rhythm, and built confidence. Benjamin used a similar method during his commute. He listened to short dialogues, paused, and repeated them aloud. Over time, repetition improved his pronunciation, memory, and fluency, making him more comfortable in real conversations. Thomas also practiced listening and repeating in the evenings. He imitated pronunciation, strengthened his speaking muscles, and became more confident with every session. Repetition truly transforms hesitant learners into fluent speakers. Some learners use writing to support daily practice. My cousin Daniel set a goal of learning 10 new words every day. He wrote them on sticky notes and placed them around the house. By the end of the week, he had 70 new words ready for daily use. Small, specific goals like this keep motivation high and progress visible. Ethan, another cousin, wrote 5 new sentences every morning and practiced them throughout the day. By the end of a month, he had built more than 150 sentences he could use confidently in conversations. Simple goals, repeated daily, turn into powerful progress. Henry kept a notebook for his learning. He wrote new words, sentences, and daily observations in English. Reviewing his notes helped him identify mistakes, reinforce memory, and see his growth over time. This small daily ritual gave him both structure and confidence. Clara, one of my students, also kept a journal. She narrated her daily activities, wrote about family events, and expressed her feelings in English. Journaling not only helped her vocabulary and grammar, but also made her English personal, tied to her own life. William, my cousin, focused on reading as a habit. He read one English article every morning, highlighted new words, and summarized the content aloud or in writing. Daily reading built his vocabulary, strengthened comprehension, and improved sentence construction. Samuel also practiced summarizing as a daily habit. After listening to English podcasts, he explained the main points to his wife. This practice reinforced comprehension, vocabulary, and speaking skills all at once. Victoria used flashcards to build her vocabulary. She wrote words on one side and pictures on the other. Reviewing them several times a day reinforced her memory and improved recall. The visual link between words and images made learning stick more deeply. Alice, Samuel, and Rachel all made use of short daily exercises. Alice repeated simple sentences. Samuel read aloud and wrote one sentence each day, and Rachel practiced with her pet. These small, consistent practices added up over weeks and months, producing measurable improvement. All of these examples show something clear. Daily habits create fluency. You don't need hours of study every day. What matters is consistency. A little repetition, a short dialogue, a quick note in a journal, or a few minutes of reading. Over time, these moments add up to confidence, fluency, and mastery. So if you're listening now, ask yourself, what small English habit can you add to your day? Maybe repeating one sentence, summarizing a short text, or labeling a few objects around you. Small steps, taken daily, will lead you to great results. Welcome back, my friends. I'm Julia, and in this part of English Without Limit, we'll explore how relationships with family, friends, and communities can make English learning both effective and enjoyable. Language is social by nature. We don't learn it just to keep it inside. We learn it to share. That's why family and friends often play such an important role in building confidence and fluency. Let's begin with peer discussions. My cousin Samuel met a friend weekly to talk in English about books, school, or hobbies. These regular conversations encouraged natural speech, improved listening, and expanded vocabulary. They weren't formal lessons, just friendly chats, but they helped him progress quickly. Olivia, another cousin, practiced by telling her husband stories from her past, school memories, family events, or daily life. His questions prompted her to speak in full sentences, strengthening her grammar, tenses, and vocabulary. Storytelling in this way turned everyday communication into practice. Rachel also involved family by teaching. She helped her younger cousin learn simple sentences in English. By explaining meanings, giving examples, and correcting errors, she reinforced her own grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation. Teaching others often deepens our own skills. Alice did something similar with her nephew, helping him learn words and sentences. Teaching forced her to practice pronunciation and grammar in a structured way, while also giving her the joy of helping someone else. Group practice can be equally powerful. My friend Henry joined a local English-speaking club where members discussed hobbies, school experiences, and work-related topics. Active participation gave him practical experience, improved his listening, and built his speaking confidence. Victoria studied with her friend Adam. They decided to discuss homework in English. asking questions, explaining answers, and correcting each other. Over time, their conversations grew longer and more detailed, and their learning became interactive and enjoyable. Emily and her school friend Lucas made their learning fun by solving puzzles together in English. As they explained their answers and helped one another, they practiced speaking in a playful and natural way. Julia, another friend of mine, joined a painting class with her schoolmate Mark. They described their work, shared techniques, and gave feedback in English. Even though mistakes happened, the consistency of practice during a fun hobby made learning easier and more memorable. Daniel also practiced creatively with his wife. They wrote short dialogues and acted them out, bringing humor and play into their practice sessions. This creative activity built vocabulary, sentence formation, and pronunciation while making learning enjoyable. Family meals can become practice sessions, too. Nathan exchanged short conversations with family members during breakfast. Simple questions like, "What are you doing today?" created a rhythm of daily dialogue that supported fluency. Clara used family events as opportunities, planning gatherings, picnics, and birthdays in English. She involved her relatives in invitations, discussions, and coordination. This practical application of language strengthened her fluency while bringing her family closer together. Alice also practiced with her family at home by giving directions in English, such as "please pass the salt" or "close the window." These everyday commands turned ordinary household moments into lessons. And then there's the support of encouragement. Many learners find that practicing with friends or family reduces nervousness and builds confidence. Speaking with people you trust creates a safe environment to make mistakes, laugh, and grow. What all of these stories show us is simple but powerful. We learn best when we learn together. Family, friends, classmates, and communities give us encouragement, accountability, and joy. Whether it's solving puzzles, planning a picnic, teaching a cousin, or joining a club, shared practice makes English come alive. So, as you think about your own journey, ask yourself, who in your life could be a language partner? Maybe a family member, a friend, or even a group of people who share your interests. Together, you can turn ordinary conversations into opportunities for growth. Hello again, my friends. I'm Julia, and in this part of English Without Limit, we'll explore how emotions and self-expression shape your journey with English. Language is not only about describing the world around us, it's also about sharing what we feel inside. When we use English to express our emotions, we strengthen both vocabulary and confidence. Let's begin with Clara. She made it a habit to narrate her feelings about work, family, and daily activities in English. She would say things like, "I feel happy today because my work went well," or "I am tired because I had many tasks." This practice expanded her vocabulary for emotions and improved her sentence structure. Rachel also used storytelling with her husband. She shared stories about her workday, her childhood, or family events. His questions pushed her to explain in detail, forming complete sentences and building fluency. Storytelling became both practice and connection. Peter focused on thinking in English as a way to reduce hesitation. Instead of translating feelings from his native language, he formed sentences directly in English. I am excited about tomorrow's meeting, or I feel nervous before speaking in public. Thinking directly in English helped him speak more naturally and quickly. Describing emotions is not only about vocabulary, it's also about confidence. My student Alice, for example, repeated simple sentences daily. I am going to school, or I need water. Over time, she grew confident enough to expand them with feelings. I am going to school, and I feel excited because I have a test today. That little addition made her sentences richer and more personal. Confidence also grows through practice with others. Olivia gained courage by speaking in public places. She asked shopkeepers for prices, drivers for directions, and neighbors for information. At first, she felt nervous, but with each interaction, her confidence grew. Soon she could ask questions comfortably, with clear pronunciation and natural fluency. Thomas used role-playing with his wife to prepare for real-life situations. Together, they practiced doctor visits, shopping, and greetings. By simulating real conversations, Thomas reduced anxiety and built readiness for real interactions. Emma found confidence by recording herself. She told short stories about her day, listened back, and noticed her mistakes. Each time she practiced again, her speech became clearer and smoother. Recording gave her a safe way to hear herself and improve without pressure. Michael built confidence in a playful way. While cooking, he described his actions aloud. I am chopping vegetables. I am boiling water. At first, his sentences were short, but as he grew braver, he added more detail. I am chopping vegetables carefully, and now I am boiling water to make pasta. Speaking out loud during daily tasks helped him overcome shyness and speak without fear. Confidence also grows when we turn learning into fun. Julia and her friend Mark practiced English during their painting classes. Even though they made mistakes, they enjoyed describing colors, shapes, and techniques. The joy of the activity kept their confidence alive. Daniel built confidence creatively by writing dialogues with his wife and acting them out. Mistakes became part of the fun. The more he practiced, the less nervous he felt about speaking. For many learners, confidence is the bridge between knowing English and using English. You may already know the words and grammar, but confidence allows you to bring them out into the world. So here's the reflection I want to leave you with in this section. Don't be afraid of mistakes. Mistakes are not failures. They are signs of growth. Every time you express a feeling, tell a story, or describe an experience in English, you are building not only your language skills, but also your courage. Remember, English is not just about rules and vocabulary. It's about you. Your emotions, your stories, your unique voice. And when you speak with confidence, you allow that voice to shine. Welcome back, my friends. I'm Julia, and in this part of English Without Limit, we'll discover how your environment and daily activities can become powerful tools for learning English. Let's start with something simple. Ordinary surroundings. My friend Sophia labeled items in her kitchen, bedroom, and living room with English words. She would say the words aloud every time she saw the objects. This visual connection between word and object strengthened her memory and made vocabulary easier to recall. Henry took a similar approach by keeping a learning notebook. He wrote new words, sentences, and daily observations in English. Reviewing his notes reinforced learning, helped him identify mistakes, and tracked his progress over time. Practical use of language in real-life settings speeds up progress. My student Andrew practiced English while helping customers in his father's store. He asked, "Do you need assistance?" Or, "What size do you want?" Real interactions forced him to adapt quickly, improving his speaking and listening skills naturally. Oliver also improved through practice at his uncle's shop. He asked customers, "Would you like this in another size?" Or, "Do you need a bag?" Using English in everyday transactions made his vocabulary and sentence structure stronger than memorizing phrases ever could. Public spaces also offer wonderful opportunities. My cousin Olivia practiced speaking with shopkeepers, drivers, and pedestrians in English. She asked about prices, directions, and products. Each interaction, though small, gave her real confidence and fluency. Alice did something similar while traveling. She spoke with taxi drivers, shopkeepers, and neighbors in English during her trips to nearby towns. These short, authentic conversations exposed her to natural speech and gave her valuable listening practice. Some learners bring creativity into their practice. My friend Daniel wrote short dialogues and acted them out with his wife. Acting allowed them to practice pronunciation, sentence formation, and vocabulary while making learning fun. Thomas used role-playing to simulate doctor visits, shopping trips, and greetings. These playful rehearsals made him comfortable with real-life English situations. Clara applied creativity to planning tasks. She organized a family picnic in English, writing invitations, discussing food, and arranging games. By using English in real planning, she strengthened her communication skills far more than memorizing lists could. Rachel did the same when planning a birthday party. She coordinated everything in English: invitations, food, schedules. Everyday planning became an engaging language lesson. Hobbies also provide excellent opportunities. Lucy loved gardening and practiced phrases like, "I am planting flowers," and "I am watering the vegetables." Connecting English to something she loved made the vocabulary meaningful and easy to remember. Laura enjoyed photography. She read English tutorials about camera settings, spoke aloud about photo editing steps, and described her actions in English. This hobby-based learning turned technical vocabulary into a natural part of her speech. Emma followed tutorials for art, gardening, and cooking in English. Using language in familiar activities gave her practical vocabulary and reinforced memory. Michael practiced while cooking, describing each step aloud. At first, his sentences were short. "I am chopping vegetables." Later, they became longer and richer. I am chopping vegetables carefully, and now I am boiling water to prepare pasta. By making cooking a language activity, he improved without even realizing it. Julia and her friend Mark used painting as a shared hobby. They described colors, shapes, and techniques in English. Mistakes didn't stop them. In fact, they laughed together and kept practicing, which made learning joyful and natural. Even pets can become conversation partners. Rachel spoke in English to her cat. "You are sleeping," or "The ball is under the table." These small, playful sentences built fluency and confidence. Simon practiced by describing his morning routine. "I am making tea. I am packing my bag." Later, he added details like, "I am checking my schedule while packing my bag." This simple daily narration helped him think in English and speak naturally. Jonathan practiced during his morning walks. He described his surroundings in English. "The tree is tall today," or "The dog is running fast." With time, his sentences became more detailed and his fluency improved. What did these stories have in common? They show us that English learning doesn't need to be separate from daily life. The environment itself, whether it's a home, a shop, a walk, or a hobby, can be your classroom. And when you add creativity like role-playing, storytelling, or hobby-based practice, learning becomes both effective and enjoyable. So, here's the reflection for this section. Your environment is full of opportunities. Don't wait for perfect lessons. Instead, turn daily routines, hobbies, and creative exercises into natural practice sessions. Each small action adds up to big progress. Hello again, my friends. I'm Julia, and in this part of English Without Limit, we'll explore how technology and study tools can become powerful partners on your journey to fluency. Let's begin with something traditional yet very effective: flashcards. My friend Victoria used them daily. On one side of each card, she wrote an English word. On the other side, she placed a picture. Reviewing them several times a day reinforced her memory and improved recall. Visual aids, like flashcards, are simple but incredibly powerful because they connect words with images. Now let's move to journals and notebooks. Henry kept a learning journal where he wrote new words, short sentences, and daily observations in English. Reviewing his notes regularly strengthened his memory, helped him identify mistakes, and showed him clear progress over time. Clara, on the other hand, used recording as a tool. She narrated her daily activities, recorded them on her phone, and then listened back carefully. She noticed her pronunciation mistakes, grammar slips, and unclear sentences. Each time she practiced again, her speech grew clearer, smoother, and more confident. Recording is like having your own teacher. Your own voice shows you exactly where you can improve. Emma used a similar method with short stories. She told a story about her day, recorded it, and listened to it later. Hearing her own voice gave her insight into her fluency and pronunciation. Over time, this practice made her speech more natural and confident. Now let's talk about technology in daily life. My friend Ethan used an English voice assistant to ask questions, set reminders, and check the weather. Daily interaction with technology gave him low-pressure speaking and listening practice. The best part was that he could do this every day, without fear of making mistakes in front of others. Social media is another modern tool. Daniel, for example, posted short updates about his day in English. He also commented on his friends' posts and replied to messages. Writing and reading in real contexts, not just in textbooks, improved his grammar, vocabulary, and sentence structure. Thomas joined an online community for photography. He asked questions, shared tips, and replied to others daily in English. This regular interaction with real people improved his writing skills and exposed him to natural expressions. Another Thomas joined a technology forum in English. By asking questions and sharing advice, he practiced both formal and informal English. Online communities not only helped him learn vocabulary, but also gave him confidence in expressing his ideas to people from different countries. Active listening is one of the most valuable tools for learners. My student Alice practiced by listening carefully to short English conversations. She repeated the sentences aloud, focusing on rhythm, pronunciation, and tone. Listening actively transformed her comprehension and improved her speaking rhythm. Benjamin used listening during his daily commute. He played English dialogues and paused often to repeat sentences aloud. This repetition trained his speaking muscles, strengthened memory, and boosted his confidence. Thomas also practiced listening and repeating in the evenings. He imitated pronunciation closely, almost like a shadowing exercise, and over time his fluency grew. Samuel enjoyed listening to podcasts in English, but instead of just listening passively, he explained the main points to his wife afterward. Summarizing forced him to use new vocabulary, recall details, and practice speaking, all in one exercise. William focused on reading for comprehension. Every morning, he read one English article, highlighted new words, and summarized it orally or in writing. This daily habit built his vocabulary, improved grammar, and strengthened his ability to explain ideas. Here's the reflection for this section. Whether it's a flashcard, a voice assistant, a podcast, or a social media post, every tool becomes powerful when you use it consistently and actively. The secret is not the tool itself, it's how you use it. So don't be afraid to combine traditional methods like notebooks and flashcards with modern ones like technology, online communities, and podcasts. Together, they create a rich environment where your English can grow steadily. Welcome back, dear friends. I'm Julia, and as we come to the final part of today's journey, I want us to pause and reflect on the powerful role of daily habits in learning English. You've heard so many stories throughout this episode, from cousins, friends, and students. And if there's one lesson they all share, it's this: consistency is everything. My student Samuel is a wonderful example. Every morning, he read a short paragraph aloud, repeated phrases, and wrote just one sentence. Only 10 minutes a day. But over weeks and months, his fluency, comprehension, and confidence grew noticeably. Small daily exercises build strong, lasting habits. Repetition also plays a key role. Alice repeated common sentences like, I am going to school, or I need water, throughout the day. At first, they seemed simple, but with time, these sentences became automatic, forming the building blocks for bigger conversations. Nathan added to this by practicing small dialogues with his family at breakfast. Simple questions like, "What are you doing today?" kept his mind active, his tongue flexible, and his confidence alive. And what about Simon, who narrated his morning routine in English? I am making tea. I am packing my bag. Over time, he added details until his daily narration became natural English thinking. These stories remind us that fluency doesn't arrive in one grand moment. It grows like a garden, watered daily by small, consistent actions. But beyond methods, there's something deeper: motivation. Learners like Daniel set small goals, such as learning 5 new sentences each morning. Others, like Emma or Clara, combined English with hobbies they loved, turning study into joy. When practice is tied to interest, motivation feels natural, and motivation is strengthened by community. Samuel met a friend weekly to discuss books and hobbies in English. Henry joined a club where conversations flowed naturally. Thomas joined online forums and found people with the same passions. Connection keeps learning alive. Even in quiet, personal ways, learners found motivation. Clara recorded herself, listened back, and improved step by step. Rachel spoke to her pet, turning play into practice. Benjamin listened and repeated dialogues during commutes, turning travel into growth. Every story carries the same truth. Learning is most powerful when it becomes part of life itself. So, as we close this long journey together, let's reflect. English is not only about grammar, vocabulary, or pronunciation. It is about expression. It's about finding your voice in another language and letting it flow into your work, your family, your hobbies, your feelings, and your dreams. If you can make English part of your daily life, in small ways, joyful ways, creative ways, you will see progress. Not overnight, not in 1 week, but step by step, word by word, until fluency feels natural. And always remember, mistakes are not barriers. They are signs of growth, like stepping stones across a river. Every stumble is proof that you are moving forward. So here at the end of English Without Limit, I invite you to take these stories with you. Try one today. Label an object, repeat a phrase, describe your morning, join a conversation, write a short note. Let English breathe into your daily life. And as you do, trust yourself. Because the truth is, you already have the ability. You just need to give yourself time, space, and practice. Thank you for spending these hours with me. It has been such a joy to guide you through these stories and reflections. I hope they inspire you to see English not as a subject, but as a living, breathing part of your everyday world. This is Julia, and you've been listening to English Without Limit. Until next time, keep speaking, keep listening, and keep growing. Your voice in English is waiting, and it has no limits.